36 years of basketball knowledge and life skills. Your host, Coach Goins, focuses on today's topics on and off the court, helping players and coaches achieve their goals. So get ready for another fast break episode of Basketball More Than a Game with your host, Coach Goins.
Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Coach Goins. You say, Coach, what's popping? I tell you what, it ain't basketball because basketball season is over. So right now we are just going to talk a little bit about, what happened in the finals and all that good stuff. But hey, but before we do that, we got to make sure that we pay the bills, and we want to thank our title sponsor. That's none other than Mr. Curtis Jackson out of the great state of North Carolina. So for your insurance needs, please reach out to Curtis at area code 919-614-5796 and let him know that you heard or you found out about him on Basketball More Than the Game. We certainly appreciate he and his staff and his continued support of Basketball More Than the Game. Also, if you want to make sure you subscribe, like, follow us, leave us a comment. You can check us out on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. You can go to my YouTube channel, Coach Lamont Goins, and go to my website at coachgoins.podbean.com. Follow me on Facebook and Lionfish Entertainment out of Los Angeles, California. But say, Coach, what's popping? I got somebody that I've known probably for about 18 years. She said, Coach, man, what's going on? So listen, I've got none other than Mr. Rafael Amalbert from the great state of Florida, transition to Pennsylvania. Rafael, welcome to Basketball More Than the Game.
It's an honor, it's a pleasure, brother. How you doing today?
Hey man, good. So listen, we go way back, and we're gonna be talking about that a little bit here. But you know what? Before we get into that, we want to definitely thank everybody that continues to support us all the way across the country. So there's a couple states I got to call out. So if you know somebody from Montana, South Dakota, as well as New Hampshire, tell them to get on the stick and find somebody and tell them to tune in to Basketball More Than the Game because we'd love to have them. We want to thank our international sponsors. We're up to 21 countries now. We just went into Turkey last week. Russia's taken off. We just want to thank everybody from New Zealand, Canada, Japan, Australia, Sweden, Netherlands, Germany, Dominican Republic, Finland, Ireland, Albania, Kuwait, Tunisia, Vietnam, Ghana, France, United Arab Emirates, Denmark, and also in Haiti. So listen, we're gonna be talking some basketball. So Rafael, come on, man. Let's talk about this NBA Finals. And I know it was the broom, so come on, give me your perspective.
We're gonna give a shout out to the people in Puerto Rico. We're gonna get some of the people in the Caribbean start listening to this wonderful podcast and all this information. And nothing but the reason why we do is because we love the game. We've been around it for a long time. I didn't play no basketball growing up. Obviously, I come from an island where you have a stick, a ball, and a glove from birth. So it's baseball, but basketball is that's what moved the country down there.
Exactly.
And everybody comes together when it's 5-on-5. It's on. My perspective, obviously, like you mentioned, I'm sad that the actual game is over now. I was pulling for LeBron James more than pulling for the Cleveland Cavaliers, but it's just I know we have to talk about a few things in here, but I tell you, Jordan has his own place, but the fact that LeBron, with the limited amount of talent that surrounding him, and pretty much halfway through the season, restarting and resetting and having a brand new team. That's very hard to do. And he's been doing that the last 8 years in a row. So that's a major accomplishment there by itself.
And that's a great call out, folks. Don't take it lightly. And you know how we're gonna serve it up right here on Basketball More Than the Game. We're gonna tell you the truth, like it or not. It's our show and our dime, so we can talk about what we want to talk about. But I heard that was actually in a conversation today, and a guy came up and he was talking about, he doesn't like the NBA. Well, listen, you know what? He may not like the NBA. That's fine. You don't have to watch it. But what I appreciate is this. I appreciate, guys, as Rafael called out, I appreciate when you look at LeBron, you look at Kobe, you look at Michael Jordan, those guys, did they play in the NBA? Yeah, because that's the only place they could play. Could they play in another league beyond the NBA? Yeah, for like elite players. So bottom line to it is, whether he's in Cleveland, whether he's in Golden State, you have to appreciate these guys because these guys can do what? They get it done. Now, you think about, we talked about this when we were having dinner a little bit earlier. Jordan couldn't get it done until he had a cast of stellar players. LeBron experienced that when he went south with down at South Beach. The thing with Golden State is Golden State couldn't get it done without Kevin Durant, or made it easier to get it done with Durant on the squad. So, him being smart and him saying, okay, I can go somewhere and I really don't have to work that hard. it's all good. But we are kind of sad because basketball actually should have been Game 5 on the night, but it's not. So we get ready to tune in to our favorite pastime when we're together, and that's
Yankees.
the Yankees. And actually they're playing the Mets. Actually, I wish the game was Boston. But now that I bring that up, I'm gonna kind of turn the hands of the time and the clock back. I remember we were together, and we were watching the game when the Yankees were up 3-1, and it was Game 7, and Big Papi was at the plate. And the pitch came out, and I remember Rafael said, no, because he's seen Big Papi wind up, and he'd already picked that leg up and was like, no, we knew he was going to knock the cover off of it. And, of course, what happened? It leaves the stadium, and our beloved Yankees, we took the dive, and, of course, the Boston Red Sox went on to win that World Series. But we're just gonna sit here and talk, ham it up a little bit. But just there's nothing like true friends. There's nothing like having a good time, and that's what the basketball, more than the game, is all about. It's we create an avenue for kids not have to go to mom and dad and stick their hand in their pocket and pay a whole lot of money. What they can do is just sit around, pull us up and get that information and be able to do what. Kind of just help them along in life. So our first segment of the day's show is always entitled a fast break. And what we're going to be talking about fast break, we're going to talk a little bit about Rafael and his career. I know he was ex prior military. He's been in logistics a little over 20 years, but we're going to kind of spend a little bit of time as we deal into that. But before we do, we want to thank our sponsor for this segment. That is Act Sports. So if you're looking for great recreation sports for your youth, please go to www.playactsports.com for your youth sports. We just closed registration for track as well as wrestling. We have various other sports, so you can go to playactsports.com for your kids' recreation needs. So, hey, Rafael, listen, I know we're spanning the globe and we're all over the country, and I just want you just to tell us a little about, as you transitioned out of the military and you got into logistics. Tell us, kind of give us an overview of since you've been in logistics, what is one of the biggest things that you learned in the house? I'm going to refer to it as the house, in the house of logistics.
Well, coming from the military, especially in the Marine Corps, hoorah for Semper Fi to all the Marines out there, and to all the servicemen, thank you for your service as well.
That's right.
You bring a lot of traits, talents, skills, but above everything, you bring try to bring your leadership and also your passion about everything we do, and above anything, everything that we do is as a team. It's a team perspective, one goal. I've been blessed to be part of a company like Motorola for 4 years after the Marine Corps. For the last 17 years, I was actually with a company like Walmart, logistics, transportation, and that's the reason why we're transitioning from Florida to the great state of Pennsylvania, which is something out of the norm for our family, because we're used to you can say the heat, the warm weather, but now we gotta get used to the wonderful weather in the Northeast. So obviously, I heard they don't call it the frozen tundra for nothing, but we're looking forward to the opportunity, and it's something that I'm looking forward to now that I have joined Amazon.
How about that?
They just bring a whole new perspective of coming from Walmart. You have stores, you have a lot of customers, you have your drivers, and of course you have your associates. But all of a sudden you go to a company where, yes, you don't have the overhead you don't have no stores,
That's
but
right.
you still have your customers, and you have still the most important thing, which is the people.
That's exactly
you
right.
cannot do it by yourself. You always have to. You have to always rely on your teammates, your associates, to get that one job done. So it's always one job, one mission.
You know what? And that's exactly right. Folks, when you don't realize when you work in that logistics field, you become solid as a rock. You become another brother from a different mother, and that's actually how I get to meet Rafael. Hey, so we are live, Facebook. So our great friend Amanda, Rafael's Samantha is on the camera, and she's taking care of us. So we're kind of doing the live podcast. Simultaneous Facebook Live as well as the podcast. But Rafael was talking about, think about 18 years ago, I met this fine man, and through that, through the brotherhood of being able to work in that type of environment, you learn to rely on each other. It's almost, you're a team, and you don't realize that when you go to work each and every day, you've got to have somebody's got to have your six. And because you know what, when you walk in there, every day is not going to be a good day. Every day is going to be on the grind. Everything is going to be what do you have to do? And so as he eloquently put that, now he turns and get ready to go to another chapter, and that's with Amazon. I'm excited about it because as Amazon continues to make their power moves, I'm employed with Best Buy. So guess what? So as Amazon makes power moves, that forces us to make us, number one, stay on our cutting edge, makes us, stay and leverage that technology. So when one company starts moving, the other company needs to be able to fall in line. So I appreciate you camping that out. So listen, as you navigated through your Walmart career, and you in buildings, and I know we were in Monroe, Georgia together, and we'll give a shout out to all of the guys that was in Monroe, Georgia with
Monroe,
us.
Georgia, baby.
Those guys, from Johnny J. Joe to Robert Short to
Alan Warren,
Robert
to Short,
Robert, Tom Potter, Ron Tesson. So all those guys that we hung out with, and
we kind of like you too, Lee Holland.
Yeah, and then none other than Harold Mann. So give him a shout out. But all those guys we worked with in Walmart, there's no, one thing about it, we worked hard, we played hard, and that was the reward because each and every day, we would be on that grind. So listen, as we continue to talk about sports and we talk about life, what I'm going to ask Rafael now to do is just talk about globally from a transportation standpoint, and now moving into now moving into Amazon without, of course, tipping his hand because a lot of that stuff is confidential. What I've always seen in Walmart is just cutting edge, just always able to stay on the cutting edge. Now, in that, with the transportation regulations change, how did that affect you from what you did in order to get that product from the building to the customers?
Well, before I get there, I actually want to give the audience a short story that one of the ways that we even became closer, we became brothers, was through the game of basketball. Because I know we work long hours, 10, 12, 15-hour shifts, on call 24/7. But one of the things that we always did, whether we can put the ball in the hoop or not, or pretty much kill each other, hit each other very hard. That's one thing that always brought us together. And I think doing those extracurricular activities brought us together because we knew at the end of the day we can have each other's back off and off the court.
That's right.
So that's but as far as Amazon, I mean, the fact that you don't have no store, so you have more interaction straight with the customer. I mean, of course, you have a big box where you have actually customers coming into your store,
right,
in and out. But I talk about the overhead, no overhead as far as the information or the interaction with the customer. It's very interesting, just to, like you say, as far as keeping try to keep all the confidentiality. But as far as the technology, robots, and it's
cutting edge.
It's cutting edge, light years away.
And again, as they made changes, and again, being we have to value our confidentiality. Can't talk about, but so much. I see us making some huge strides in order to stay competitive in that market. So so we just talking basketball. We talking about life. Because I remember, here he is. He's got a teenage daughter, and his son's growing. Last time his son was here, he was barely walking. Now he gets out of the car and he's like ready to rock and roll. And we had great dinner and great fellowship. Like I said, we get to watch our beloved Yankees, and just keep kicking it. So listen, before we get into the next session of the podcast, we just want to make sure that you can check us out on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube channel, as well as Facebook, which we're doing Facebook Live, and also Lionfish Entertainment out of Los Angeles, California. So we're continuing to grow. We just want to thank all of our sponsors. There he is right there. There's Rafael Jr. Yeah. He's over there, so we put the camera on him real quick. And we just certainly appreciate my great friend as he's transitioning to Allentown, Pennsylvania. He's stopping over, going to spend the night and head on out tomorrow, heading on up that way. So listen, as you said earlier, being from Puerto Rico, it's baseball. Baseball. What makes the guys in the Caribbean such great players? Why are they just head and shoulders above, better than anybody else?
I think resources is one, but also you always have obviously the connection with the United States, and then wanting to do something bigger than you, wanting to represent. The island's 100 miles long, 35 miles wide. 3.5 million people. But one of the things that is two sports definitely, three sports, a major sport, but there's always one that always brought the island together to their feet. It was boxing.
Okay.
When the days of Felix Trinidad, uh, that means when he was in that ring inside those ropes, you felt that it was you. He was an extension of you, and especially being the best at that specific weight class, it's like wow. A person like me, Puerto Rican,
Right.
from a small island,
Can
he's
you do-
he's the best in the world doing that. So it's just a representation of you, it's an extension of you. But I think it's just the passion, the will that the people have, and also the culture and the togetherness. And they have to be straight up with that. I mean, just you grow up, watching Roberto Clemente. Obviously, I had the pleasure of having, seen him play live.
Right.
But I felt the effect and of the impact of the things that he did specifically off the field. My dad seen him play live,
Right.
but the fact what the other things that even on the top of his game, I remember I can recite pretty much the story my dad gave me when he took off to bring relief to those that had an earthquake
Right.
in Central America on January 31st. And the airplane going down, literally the island shut down because they knew they not only lost a hero, but they lost another brother.
Right.
That it was an extension, it was a representation of them here in the United States.
Right.
So that was a very sad moment for Puerto Rican history as far as sports. But that's what the value of the sports and that's what brings the passions out of us.
And that's the thing. I think sometimes, not growing up in, Puerto Rico and, growing up in the United States, you look at people and you really don't want to embrace their contribution. Just like you eloquently talked about, Roberto Clemente. You look at, my gosh, Mariano Rivera. Those guys, when people see them on the mound, they see themselves. And that's the pride that's the pride from being from Puerto Rico. That's the pride, from people, they just bring that. And then as Americans, sometimes we lose that. We're so quick just to, I don't like that guy. Okay, you know what? You don't know that man's struggles. You don't know what he did to pay the price to get out there. Same thing, we know Michael Jordan and LeBron. And people say, I don't like this. You know what? Forget all of that and just appreciate what the man's doing. Appreciate what the man's doing for the game, and appreciate the contributions for what's happening on that. So listen, let's talk about what you like to do when you're not on the grind. When you're not, and it's Rafael time. I know, you got your beautiful family, but when you have a chance to get out of the office, unwind. Let's talk about what you like to do when on your R&R time.
Brother Lamar, I noticed as I got older in life, I'm becoming more and more like my grandfather. My grandfather used to stay by the radio and argue with the radio for hours. There's a grandpa, what are you doing? You arguing with the radio. The radio's not gonna answer you those comments that you're saying. So I noticed that I do a lot. I know I had the pleasure of being on the road for the last 9 hours with my family, and I know we have my wife and I have some great conversations, small little fights, but more conversations about the whole state of the NBA, where the NBA is heading. But one of the things that I wanted to add to the question that earlier, growing up, favorite player in baseball, Willie Stargell. Look how far Willie Stargell was from the island, and he still had that impact. We emulate the swing, how everything. Obviously, we also emulate the sky hook, the baby hook from Magic, Kareem. Famous, most famous boxer. One of my favorite boxers of all time, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. I mean, how a kid from Puerto Rico is 2,000-3,000 miles away knows about that. So that's the power of sports. That's the power of. I love sports. Obviously, now that kids are getting a little bit older and bigger, and they get developing their motor skills and everything. I know Rafael started playing soccer. Samantha played a little soccer. Tatiana started, she's gotten taller all she liked playing volleyball. But what I enjoyed the most, even if I'm not talking to them, is being surrounded by my family. That's what I love the most.
You know what? So, folks, that's what it's about. That's what it's all about. At the end of the day, you just like me. I come in, I don't have any problems not leaving the house, because I've done what I need to do, and I'm coming home, and I want to enjoy the fam, and I want to sit around and just take care of business. and just enjoy that. That's what we were talking about earlier. My son, he's out for 2 weeks doing his annual training in Wisconsin. Talked to him earlier today,
Be
so
safe,
he's
Brad.
getting.
Be safe.
Yeah, so he's getting. Yeah, if he's logged on, he says, "What's up, Noop?" So we got Rafael and the fam in the house. But no, that's what it's all about. You get out every day and you're on the grind. So our challenge to you is always remember, those of you that had that responsibility with your kids. They didn't ask to come here, so when it's time to get out there and play those team sports, they can learn so much from the competitiveness. They can learn how to lose, how to win. Because you take sports out of my life, and I tell you, it would be a different way to go. So listen, as we get into this last segment of the podcast, it's called In the Paint, and what we talk about in the paint is just like on the court. When you look and say what happens in the paint, that's where the rubber hits the road. So I'm gonna throw out a couple names, and I want you to come back with the first thing that pops in your mind. Muhammad Ali.
Oh, the greatest.
Okay. Derek Jeter.
The captain.
Wow. All right.
El Capitan.
El Capitan. All right. Joe Torre.
The boss.
Mariano Rivera.
The closer.
Wow. Magic Johnson.
Smooth. That's prime time. That's what I call it.
LeBron James.
He's just a out of the world beast.
Okay. Kobe Bryant.
The Black Mamba, but clutch. Kobe was clutch to me.
Michael Jordan.
MJ, man, just the best there is. There really is awards. You know what I mean? I had the opportunity to actually seen the Chicago Bulls when Tom Chambers was still playing.
Okay.
On the Seattle Supersonics.
Yep.
It happened to be they just went to a game in St. Petersburg, Florida, and I was 17 years old. I was a lifeguard, and they had a close practice, and they used our facility down there in Anchor College in St. Pete. How the Bulls ended up in Anchor College St. Pete, they were there.
You were there too.
I was there. Guess what? All of a sudden, I see all this Bulls uniforms, and I start seeing all this. Oh my God! What is this? Stacey King, B.J. Armstrong, Bill Cartwright, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. And all of a sudden, one of the guys said, "This practice only for, Chicago Bulls. And if you're a member of the Anchor College basketball team, you can stay there. Everybody else needs to go." I look to the left. I look to the right. Hey, I belong to Anchor College. I work for Anchor College. I'm a student. I'm a student athlete. I'm staying right here.
Getting it all in.
And one of the things that impressed me the most is how behind the doors Pippen and Jordan used to go push each other, how they went about the business. I mean, this is stuff that you don't see, of course.
Right.
You even buying a ticket, you don't see this stuff. It just happened. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
That's right.
And how they went to each other, the way they talk to each other, the way they push each other, it just brings the best. Just brings the best out of you.
And that's the thing. You can't. You have to have. First of all, you got to be accountable to somebody, and then second of all, iron sharpens iron.
Mm-hmm.
So as Raf's calling this thing out, think about it. You get in there. Jordan needs somebody to push him, and he just happened to be fortunate to play with a guy named Scottie Pippen.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get out, how do you? You think about that. How do you take a guy and you go to LeBron's? How do you go to the Cleveland practice and who's going to guard LeBron? Who's going to guard Kobe when, Kobe's late years in the Lakers, when you don't have that, not heir apparent, but when you don't have that other blue chip player to be able to get out. So it does create a whole lot of stuff. So listen, I'm going to hit you with this right here. So Yankees are rocking and rolling. They just dropped the lineup up here. We see that Greg Bird is running. He's at first base. Sanchez, Didi's down through here, and I think Judge is on the shelf tonight.
Gary Sanchez.
All right.
Hit the ball. Don't try to hit a home run every time, please.
All right.
Just
make contact.
Make
contact. That's the thing. I think he's getting caught up too much of what everybody else is doing. So yeah, it's good to give these guys a night off. So listen, as we start wrapping this thing up, I'm going to toss it over here to Rafael for his closing comments, and then Coach will be right back. Go ahead, Raf.
It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. It's my first time, and obviously it's not my first time here in your home. And thank you for having us. Just myself and my family. You're my brother forever. Just like I had the honor and the opportunity to meet your mother today for the first time, and it's like I met an aunt,
Yep.
and I told her that my love is unconditional, and one of the things that she was talking about her neighbor, how she missed being home and everything. I told her one of my phrases, just like you. I know you have a lot of sayings, but one of my sayings is show, and don't tell me you love me, just show me.
Right.
Just show me.
Yep, yep. Because talk can be cheap. So listen, folks, as we start wrapping this up, we definitely want to thank again my brother, Mr. Rafael Amalbert, and wish him Godspeed as they transition to Allentown, Pennsylvania, and start that whole chapter with Amazon. So we just just a blessing on him. So wherever our goal and our vision for him is whatever he puts his hands and hearts to, that they'll walk in God's love and protect he and his family. So listen, as we start wrapping this thing up, Coach Goins is going to get out of here. This podcast and will be launched on Wednesday. Of course, we're doing Facebook Live, so those that are kind of tuned in, we appreciate your continued support as we start getting ready to crunk up and get watch these Lakers. And as we always say here on Basketball More Than the Game, as it says, John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the light. So listen, Coach Goins has got to get out of here. I got to get this gym floor cleaned up before the Yankees take before the Yankees take the field tonight. So until next time, as always, help somebody, give back. And I'll see you in the gym. All right, folks, we're back on, and just took a quick little segment break right there. And as we transition into the next segment, is entitled "In the Paint." So for you basketball folks, you know what that means. So when you get down in the paint, you better make sure you got your big boy shoes on, your big pants, because that's where it battles and how it gets down. So, but listen, a lot of things that we've been talking about. We'll get back into that in a minute. But again, you can make sure you can check us out on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Facebook, Lionfish Entertainment, and also my Facebook page. And then, of course, we'll give Terry at the end as we start closing out. Because we'll actually get this to him so he can get it uploaded on his wrestling information pages and the society. So again, it'll be open to everybody. So again, we just certainly appreciate him taking out time, and as we continue to just talking about the great sport of wrestling, and just think about it. And it's just we were talking about how these guys make those transition and their health is declining. Same thing with football. You look at all of the sports, basically a lot of contact sports. How physically demanding it is on those individual bodies. The league, they're dealing with concussions. A lot of basketball players, they're dealing with knee. Well, matter of fact, just call it out what it is. Most of the older guys, every time you see them, they got on suits, but they got on sneakers because they just can't wear those, hard bottom shoes, and they wear a lot of the sneakers just because their feet or their knees. Really takes a toll on their body. So that's the tough thing about it. So when you look at guys like we called out Ric Flair, you look at Ole and Gene Anderson. I mean, I'm just thinking about when I was growing up. When I was 11, 12 years old, these guys were at the pinnacle. There was nothing like the Road Warriors. There was nothing like the Four Horsemen. You had Lex Luger and they beating up the guys and throwing them in the broom closet and making the switch. And all of a sudden there was a new horseman. And then I remember my grandmother, Tim Woods was, Johnny Weaver. That's who it was. Johnny Weaver was just like, oh my gosh. I mean, when you be out in the yard and she'd be yelling at the television just like, somebody was in the house, trying to take the TV, unplug the TV and run down the street with the chicken wings and cornbread, But she was a huge wrestling fan. But it's just everybody has their thing, and to be able to allow play to let us recreate itself, and again, Terry's deal is wrestling, so that's why we just want to be able to highlight that. And again, basketball more than the game is just the title of our podcast, and we've had people on from all walks of life. We talk about all sports. It's just a privilege to be able to sit across the mic from a gentleman that has the wealth of knowledge that he has. So if you look in, not if, it's when you listen to this podcast and you definitely want some more information, we'll definitely have that information out so you can get in touch with Brother Terry. So he can lead you down that path. So Terry, I'm going to toss it back over to you if you have any more comments and anything else you want to call out in reference to the wrestling scene before we segue into our next session.
You were talking about people getting sicker and all. Of course, Gene Anderson's passed away. Ole Anderson is real sick these days. He's always been known as a grumpy guy, but he's even grumpier because he's really sick. And Lex Luger, he was there recently with the Four Horsemen when I had my picture taken with them and all. And he's in a wheelchair now. Part of it from steroids, part of it for different reasons. And it takes a toll after a while. What's on my heart, and we can see
Yes,
where
sir.
you want to go with it, is something I said earlier, and it seems like it's coming back up in me several times here, about how our life intersects with people, and then later on it makes a difference, and we don't even realize it was going to ever happen. I was just thinking, while we were taking a break there, that when I was 16 years old, I wrote a letter to the Valley Four and Linda, a gospel quartet, telling them how much I really liked them. Could you take on a teenager to sing with you some solos maybe or something? I said, you guys really impressed me, and I appreciate you making an impression on my life and influence. And little did I know, 2 years later, Charlie would leave the group, Charlie Props, and he invited me to be his first lead singer. Seasons of Life came, and I ended up going off to college, so I was only his lead singer practicing for about 3 months, and we had like one concert. But little did I know, then that was around 74, about 10 years later, I became part of the Crestmen. They were only a full-time group for a year and a half. And they brought in 3 guys from Sacramento, California, and we became full-time. And I came off the road. I was actually just supposed to fill in till they found a lead singer. I just love gospel music my entire life. And in fact, when I was at home as a teen, my parents would go away. I'd put gospel albums on, and I would sing louder than that. That's one reason, I kind of have a loud voice when I choose to. And that's how I came about, because the albums would be playing as loud as they could on the record player, and I would be singing louder. Luckily, the neighbors must didn't hate too much. I never had a complaint, so I guess it was all right. And but I was with the Crestmen, and it was purely political, but it sounds good. We got to sing at Rex Humbard's Cathedral tomorrow. I thought that place was beautiful. I got to sing in front of as many as 20,000 people. I've sang in front of, and spoke in smaller groups as 5 before in Cleveland, Tennessee. And but the Lord just blessed us. We took a song that was made famous by the Oak Ridge Boys, Elvira, and someone rewrote it, and it was called Go Jonah. And because our publisher recommended us, nominated us, we were considered for a Grammy Award in 1985. It's purely political, but it looks good on a resume.
Yes,
you know
sir.
what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And but then people, when they really get to know me, they see how little I know about singing. So then it just ruins everything. But I enjoy singing. And when I was 18, I was in a quartet that went to Watermelon Park in Berryville, Virginia, right outside of Winchester. And we'd only been together like 4 months, and there were 30 quartets there in the contest, and we finished number 4, and we'd only been together 3 or 4 months. It just, I call it the Lord. He just favors you, and everything I've touched, he's just been so fantastic. So my connection, Charlie Props, I wrote him a letter, age 16, said I'd like to sing with you. 12 years later or so, we were being considered for a Grammy Award. There used to be a pastor right around the corner from this church, James Durrell, who pastored the Church of God locally right here, right off 11, and I knew him. I started traveling nationally. He invited me. He became the chaplain at Cook County Jail in Chicago.
Uh-oh.
Little did I know, I would be the first person to ever hold revival in the largest jail in America, Cook County Jail. It was really interesting. Instead of just being able to speak, we allowed them to raise their hand and actually ask questions during my message. It was different. I'd never seen it, never done it since. But during the day there, I got an education. I found out that certain judges can be bought for $10,000. That was back in those years, the early 80s. And also, one guy was telling me, Terry, they got me in here for diamonds and being stolen, and I'm going to probably go to prison a few years, but they don't know where it is, and I do, and I can wait them out, and somewhere down the road, I got all these diamonds waiting on me. I mean, I'm just a naive guy from Waynesboro, Virginia, and I never knew, I thought I'd heard about judges being able to be bought. Certain guys told me how for $10,000 I can get off, and that struck me how unfair that was and stuff, I'm just very naive and gullible, but these guys, they were mostly my age. I was right out of college, and it was just like talking to somebody my age. And so here it is. I knew James Durrell when he was a pastor here locally. Many years later, here it is. He was the intersection for me, the catalyst to let me have the first revival ever in the largest jail in America. It was such a blessing. I went home every night on Cloud 21. Article that I sent you before our meeting recently was about a national game that I had considering pro wrestling. Mm-hmm. When I was 13 years of age, my 7th grade history teacher, Mr. Hullett, taught me how to invent sports games since I loved all sports. And he showed me with a couple deck of cards how you could end up having pretty interesting statistical games. I ended up having games on football, baseball, bowling, golf. I tried it. Everything worked but roller derby. I can never get roller derby to work. Just couldn't figure out how to get them out on those jams or not get them out on those jams. But went from that, inventing games, including a wrestling game I invented. This is after I I wish my mom was around to tell you. She passed on, but I ended up getting a shoebox. You were talking about shoe boxes earlier, and I would get a shoebox, put a nice big desk lamp over top of it to make it look like ringside lights, and I'd have my all-star wrestling matches in my shoebox with my Army men, my Cowboys and Indians, and I became the world's greatest wrestling announcer. It was just fun, and I used to use the masking tape to put on people's faces so I could be masked for masked wrestlers. Okay. Red crayons would look really good on a white mask for blood. It was really great. And then how the mask would get partly torn off, and then they come back next week with a brand new mask. And so I went from there to the next step was making my charts even more interesting, I thought. And I made it different ways where you could have just take your time to, like you and me just playing a match together, or if you wanted to get a whole bunch of matches in, you could do hundreds of them in an hour. And I ended up inventing a game after I'd done it for my own pleasure, where I had thousands of wrestlers from around the world divided up in regions and little regions and managers and masked wrestlers and unmasked wrestlers. I was the great Vince McMahon of the world then, way ahead of time. And from there, I ended up getting a game released. One of my favorites, Fred Blassie, met me in Pennsylvania, broke kayfabe completely. In those days, a bad guy never acted good in front of the crowd because that would take away from his persona. He was a dirty wrestling manager for WWF in those days, I think. And but he just knew me as a minister, but in front of everybody was waiting in line, and Fred Blassie saw me and my friends in line. He said, come on in, Rev, come on in. Everybody was looking at me, who is this guy? And then right in front of everybody in the bleachers and all, here, get the Rev a good seat, Here's the dirty manager, and everybody's saying he's not acting normal at all. And so that was kind of fun, that him breaking kayfabe just for me and all. And he agreed to be my spokesman and for TV and for magazine ads and all. And but I decided the Lord moved on me, and I went back on the road full time again. And he understood. He never treated me bad. I did have a game, though, I'd put out before he had signed the contract, and it was exciting. I probably broke even at the best, but it was exciting to get families and kids buying my game from all over the United States, and from just one wrestling ad in a wrestling magazine. And so Mr. Hollett teaching me how to do sports games at age 13 led to me having a national pro wrestling game. It's all about connection, and that's, which could lead me easily here. I knew Pastor Ray Eppert as a friend. We used to play computer and tabletop sports games. Mm-hmm. Never dreamed I'd ever set foot in this church. I had no idea. And things change. The Lord moves different ways. Things happen in life. And I ended up here and attending here for many years. And I've attended here probably 25 plus years. And I always say they got so desperate about 10 years ago, they couldn't find anybody else, so they hired me. And it's exciting to be here now.
You know what? So, folks, so stop asking questions and wondering why, and that you've heard nothing better but Terry Kent over the last few minutes, just summarizing the things that he's put his hands to, and just how the Lord has continued to bless him in every phase. So think about it. It's not every day that you get you sit down, you create a game, and it's sold across the United States on the sport that you love. A lot of things, a lot of times people, and I'm going to call this out, and if the shoe fits, put it on. A lot of times, and here's my call out, we enjoy sports, but my challenge to you today is, what have you given back to the sport that you love? Is it your time? And you walk up and, if you're a parent, you go to your coach and say, hey, coaches, what can I help you with this season?
Good stuff.
Same thing, the coaches are giving back, the players are giving back. So just always like to challenge people to, whatever you do, how do you, pay it forward? How do you keep the passion alive, just like we do the podcast? So my goal is to find some young guy coming in behind me once I be able to walk away from the mic, to be able to, pick up the mantle and rock and roll with that. So listen, as we get ready to segue right on into the next segment, well, I got to toss out this fine organization, which is Act Sports. So any for your recreational sports needs, go to our website at playactsports.com. Right now, registration, if I want to make sure I say this right, I think registration is closed for track and also wrestling. Was our first year with wrestling, our second year with track, but it is a dynamic sports program based right here in Stanton, Virginia at Victory Worship Center, and that is Axe Sports for your and recreation needs. So go to the website at www.playactsports.com for your recreation sports needs. And it's just not about sports. We really work on the whole individual, the fullness of the human being, and as I refer to them as their student athlete. So we get ready to roll into the segment In the Paint, and as we talked about earlier. So we're going to talk, spend a little bit of time on what Terry does, his day-to-day, his passion, how he helps, the ministry. And again, I've been here 14 years. When I say here 14 years, being in the here Victory Worship Center for 14 years, and came in from a mega church in Atlanta. And that's and here's the thing for me personally, is how can you get fed coming out of a huge city as Atlanta, and you're sitting there, and I would hear our pastor speak on Sunday. That's the late Bishop Long, and I'd hear everybody from T.D. Jakes to Rod Paul. I mean, every Sunday you would always tee it up and hear the finest and the great singing, but then you come here and then it's on a smaller scale. But the Lord blessed us to be able to come here and find just a dynamic ministry that we love, and we work very hard to help fulfill the passion. But Terry is on staff here, and I'm going to go ahead and toss it back over to him and let him share with you what on his heart.
Recently, Pastor Eppert was talking to me. I know I sound like I'm only 13 or 15 years old, but we were actually talking about in the future about retirement and what our plans are, and how much staying involved. And I said, there's no church that I know of that I would rather be belonging to. That, as far as I'm concerned, it's the most exciting place to be. I know I'm a little prejudiced, but it's the most exciting place to be. 33% of our church is roughly ages 0, nursery, to age 18. I don't know many churches can say that. In fact, most churches act like they don't want youth anymore or children anymore. And it's, our vision is mainly for our children and for our teens besides everyone else. And it's exciting to be a part of a church that's young and keeps you young. It's great to have, it's like 200 young people here every Sunday morning or so worshiping God and learning more about God. Acts, it's grown from roughly around 40 people 4 years ago or so to this year. I think we'll be approaching 900 people. I mean, that's exciting. It's starting to really make us really kick it into the next gear to think about what we're going to be doing for the future. Another one of our big goals is it's exciting that we're right on the edge to make a big difference in the country of Haiti, and we're looking forward to being successful there, and that already organizations are looking toward us as a template of being successful in Haiti, and if it works there, then we can take it to so many other countries that we're planning on opening up several businesses there that will help the local economy. It's not just going in there. If I may just preach for a second, so many people have gone in there and have revivals, and they'll have the stadiums full, but when they're gone, nothing else really happens. The people get saved 50 times over, and they're still facing unemployment. And every time we've gone down to Haiti, I haven't personally, but the pastor and ministry and our young people have been down there several times, and they always say our biggest need is jobs. And so I guess we finally heard that with our ears and with our heart. And so we're laying the groundwork so that we can do something for Haiti, which I believe without a doubt this will lead to more of a worldwide ministry, but not the kind you usually hear about in the news or anything like that. But our church, we have a saying, we're a little different, but the difference is good.
Amen.
I like it for that reason. We are different. We're a regional church. I'm not saying we're better. I'm just saying that's our calling. That's where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to listen to God for us. Each church needs to listen for themselves. We're not better than the other churches around the corners or wherever. We just got to do what God lays in our heart. So many programs for church leadership. It's all about follow this way. But we believe without a doubt it's finding God's plan for our church and then fulfilling it and doing it. And so that's what we attempt to do. And so I day to day I work in the finances for the most part, and also I go to nursing homes and the hospitals and more pastoral care, I guess it would be called. But it's exciting to be part of this church that I think there's no other church like it. So.
You know what, folks, and not just saying it because I'm sitting across the mic from him, but I've experienced it, firsthand for the last 14 years, and the tremendous, growth, the tremendous vision, and I put it to you this way: we feel the weight of the ministry, and again, when I say to feel the weight of the ministry, because the body of Christ is the body, it's not the pastor.
True.
It's not just one or two people, and you have to feel the weight. So when you get the same thing on your job, my challenge to you, if you're part of a sports program, you need to feel the weight of that program. You need to do all that you can do in order to make that program flourish, and that's what Terry he's pouring out his heart. Same thing with the Haiti missions. That's a huge impact. Actually, we did a live show last week, and I had a couple of guys that I've met in Haiti. Actually, they joined on via Facebook and dialed into the live podcast that we did last week talking about the NBA Finals. So it was great to see them on. Same thing that Terry talks about. We're more than just a local church on the corner, because now we're doing Facebook Live, so we have people from all over tuning in to our Sunday morning messages. So if you're looking for a great church home and you're looking for something a little bit different, you may want to check us out, and that's at 200 Hammond Lane, and that's Stanton, Virginia, and that's Victory Worship Center and World Outreach, and Pastor Ray Eppert is the senior pastor here. So, we just appreciate Terry, calling that out. So listen, as we start to wind this show down, and just like we always say, we just want to thank everybody, for your continued support. We can't do it without you. If you're not listening, you're not subscribing, you're not liking us, and you're not sending out, hey, Coach, I want to hear about this, I want to hear about that. So it's always open. Shoot us an email, shoot me a text, whatever. Hit me on Facebook so we can make sure that we are trying to get, if we don't have that person, we'll look them up. And I'm threw a serious curveball at you today, not thinking that we're going to be talking about pro wrestling, but we have none other than the guru, Dr. Terry Kent, sitting across from me. So before we sign off, I'm going to toss it over to Terry for his closing comments and whatever's on his heart. Terry?
It's been a pleasure, Coach. Never knew this was coming either a couple days ago, but it's been a pleasure, and I just can't help but sense this message is for someone. Your dreams can come true. Believe in it. Don't let them go. Also, be good to the people that come across that intersect your life. Think about the percentage of how many people actually intersect your life. It's so infinitesimal, and but many of them are there for your future, and you never know. We can learn from everyone. One thing, I love people, and I think everybody's life story is a book, is a movie. I think everyone's interesting, and I think we should really get beyond the surface with people and be a true friend, and stop being shy. Just ask people about themselves. Most people enjoy talking about themselves, and once they realize you really care, I probably heard it every week at Rhema Bible Training Center at least once. People don't care how much you know until they know that you care, and that's so important. And just go out there and touch someone's life, fuel someone's dream, and realize the people around you one day, I'm not talking about manipulation. I'm not talking about using people. I'm talking about God ordained people being brought into your life for a purpose, and it'll all come to pass. Thanks for having me, Coach.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Hey, folks, you know what time it is. I gotta get out here and get this gym floor cleaned up and get ready for this next fast break session. But before we leave, I always got to hit you with the scripture verse, and that's John 14:6. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. So listen, like we always challenge you, make sure you make a difference, make sure you do something, and make sure you're impactful in somebody's life. So until next time, I'm your host, Coach Goins, and I'll see you in the gym.